This is 2025's The Gorge. Warning, spoilers ahead. The film starts with Dresa, a Lithuanian sniper, on one of her missions. She takes aim at a Belarusian oligarch, pulls the trigger, and leaves without hesitation. Meanwhile, Levi, a retired American sniper, arrives at a beach at 4 a.m. and spends the morning taking notes. Shortly after, he receives a message instructing him to report to a military base, where a mysterious woman named Bartholomew assigns him a secret mission. At the same time, Dresa visits her father Ericus, who is mourning his late wife at the cemetery. She tells him about her latest mission, but is troubled by the fact that the oligarch had 4 children. Her father, unfazed, reminds her that he has killed more than 4 children in his lifetime. He tells her to pass her guilt onto him by giving him the spent bullet casing, adding it to his collection. Then he drops another bombshell. She was spotted by a drone. Dresa admits that's why her boss in Moscow has ordered her to go dark for a year. Nothing says quality father-daughter bonding like casually discussing war crimes over a gravesite. Ericus asks her to stay with him for a week. He has cancer, but Dresa can't. Suddenly, her father informs her that he's decided to take his own life on February 14th. They share some beer and soak in their time together. It's September. Meanwhile, Levi is on a plane heading toward his mission. A woman on board asks for his passport, phone, and watch, then tells him he has to travel over 30 kilometers on foot to reach his destination. Levi parachutes down and arrives at a tower above a gorge. There's another tower on the eastern side, but he's strictly forbidden from contacting anyone there. At his post, Levi meets JD, the sniper he's replacing, who's finishing his mission today. JD gives him the rundown. Gun turrets, perimeter checks, cloakers, and suspended mines. He also mentions a garden and an ammunition stash. Levi must contact headquarters once a month. Then JD adds one more unsettling detail. If Levi hears sirens, he should run. Great! Nothing screams safe work environment like a guy casually saying, "Oh, by the way, if you hear sirens, just start running." JD explains that the towers were built by the USSR and the USA to keep something inside the gorge, not to keep enemies out. The western side is controlled by the Americans, while the eastern side belongs to a post-Soviet force. Then, in an unexpected move, JD throws a grenade into the gorge. Suddenly, eerie, inhuman screams echo from below. People call them the Hollow Men. JD tells Levi that in the 1940s, 2,400 men were sent into the gorge to clear it out. None returned. According to him, this place is a literal gateway to hell. The next morning, Levi says goodbye to JD and has breakfast before beginning his duties. As JD almost boards the helicopter, ready to leave this nightmare behind, a soldier suddenly executes him mid-flight and reports to Mrs. Bartholomew. October arrives and Levi settles into his routine, checking weapons, patrolling the area, and reporting in on the radio for his monthly check-in. He also finds notes left behind by previous soldiers. One day, while gathering vegetables in the garden, he decides to use binoculars to spy on the eastern tower. There, he sees a beautiful woman chopping wood. She notices him watching. Nothing builds trust quite like being caught mid-peeping session. That night, Levi wakes up to a thunderstorm. He accidentally breaks a glass and cuts his foot. Curious, he looks at the eastern tower again and sees the woman preparing for bed. November arrives. Dresa celebrates her birthday alone. Feeling bold, she fires a shot into the air to get Levi's attention. He looks through his binoculars, and finally they communicate. At first, Levi writes that they aren't allowed to talk, but soon enough he introduces himself. They toast to her birthday. Dresa then cranks up her music and dares Levi to dance. He refuses. Instead, they decide to show off their skills. Levi with his rifle, Dresa with her own marksmanship. But just as they're having fun, Dresa spots movement below Levi's tower. She signals him. Levi looks down and sees them. Monsters emerging from the gorge. Birthday celebrations. One minute you're vibing to music, the next you're fighting demons. Classic. Levi opens fire as the mines start exploding. Dresa quickly joins in using a turret gun, but one of the creatures manages to climb onto her balcony. Levi provides cover fire, but when a mine detonates near her, she gets injured. Despite the pain, she stands her ground. Finally, silence falls. The nightmare is over. Dresa, still catching her breath, calls it the best birthday ever. The next morning, while Levi resets the mines, a drone emerges from the gorge, but then mysteriously flies away. December comes. Levi sticks to his routine while Dresa plays the piano. Both are lonely. Levi sets up a small Christmas tree and leaves a note for Dresa. Merry Christmas. The holiday spirit kicks in, and soon they're making snowmen, playing chess, and even drumming. Nothing says highly classified military operation like two snipers bonding over board games and drinking with snowmen. February 14th arrives, Ericus's planned suicide date. Dresa is devastated. The girl writes that she wishes Levi was here. The next morning, he makes a decision. He's going to her. He starts preparing. Dresa is stunned when she sees him shooting a rope across the gorge. She rushes to tie it down. The bridge between them is made. Levi asks if he can come over for dinner. Dresa is overjoyed. He shaves, gathers flowers, and slides across the zip line. Halfway through, the line stops. Levi is forced to pull himself across with his hands. At last, they meet face to face. Dresa tells him she prepared a rabbit pie, but just as he starts complimenting her eyes, she wrinkles her nose and tells him he smells. He needs a shower first. Lesson of the day: romance is great, but hygiene comes first. Dresa gives him fresh clothes. Over dinner, Levi reveals he's one of the top 5 snipers in the world. Dresa is impressed, recalling his legendary shot in Yemen from 3,800 meters. Levi then asks what she thinks he's been contemplating for the past 6 months. She jokingly guesses, how to get into my pants? Levi laughs, but says he's actually been thinking about the truth behind this place. Dresa, quoting her father, says it's better not to know. But Levi disagrees. He believes that hiding the truth leads to sadness and madness. Dresa asks why he became a sniper. Levi recounts the first time he pulled the trigger outside Belize, shooting a man on a fishing boat. He's had nightmares about it ever since. Dresa is the first person to ever hear this story. Dresa then puts on a vinyl record and starts dancing. She coaxes Levi to join. Slowly, he gives in. They dance together, growing closer until they finally kiss. Later, as they sit beneath the stars, Levi reveals he writes poetry. Hesitant at first, he finally shares a title. She Collapsed the Night. Dresa loves it. Imagine waiting your whole life to confess your deepest trauma, only for the person to respond with, yeah, anyway, wanna dance? In the morning, as Levi slides back toward the tower, one of the mines explodes, snapping the rope and sending him tumbling down into the gorge. Dresa, seeing this, grabs her parachute and jumps after him without hesitation. She lands in the river, but in the process loses her auto-ascender. Struggling at first, she eventually manages to pull herself out of the water. Well, that's one way to start the day. Levi's probably rethinking his life choices right about now. Meanwhile, Levi wakes up trapped near a tree, dazed but alive. Just as he's trying to get out of the trap, Dresa appears and rescues him. But before they can catch their breath, monstrous figures on grotesque horses emerge from the darkness. Without wasting time, the couple fights them off. Soon, they realize they're stuck 500 meters below the towers with no clear way up. Zombie horsemen? Really? At this point, they might as well start charging admission for this nightmare. Levi notices something strange. One of the zombie soldiers is wearing an old American military uniform from the early 1940s. As they continue deeper into the gorge, the scenery becomes even more unsettling, like they've stepped into an alternate nightmare dimension. They find an abandoned town and take cover in a church, only to discover the bodies of the townspeople. It turns out they chose to end their lives rather than be eaten by zombies. Cheerful! Nothing like a good old mass suicide to really set the mood. This place is basically a horror movie buffet. Before they can react, massive spiders swarm them. And just when things couldn't get worse, zombies join the chaos. Fighting their way through, they finally reach the gorge wall and find a door. They barricade themselves inside and head deeper down a corridor, eventually stumbling upon an old laboratory filled with skeletons. Levi finds an old tape, and Dresa manages to power up a generator, bringing dim light into the room. They turn on the recording. A professor, speaking in July 1946, explains that while Oppenheimer was busy with his atomic bomb, their team was secretly developing a biochemical weapon. However, the mutation got out of control, infecting the researchers and even mutating insects and plants. Determined to keep the virus from escaping the gorge, the original team made sure no one would leave alive. Classic science gone wrong scenario. Why is it always the 1940s that ruin everything? Levi and Dresa find an old computer that confirms their real mission. They were sent here to protect the secret of this place, a facility that uses the mutation to create ultra soldiers. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Levi tells Dresa that if they don't make it to the top, he values the time they've spent together. Before they leave, they make another horrifying discovery. Dresa's gear pack is missing. This proves the zombies can think. They throw fog grenades and make a run for it. Intelligent zombies? Great, because regular zombies weren't terrifying enough already. Dreza spots her gear pack and goes to pick it up, but it's a trap. The pack is tied to a monstrous horse, and before she can react, the creature takes off with her. Levi immediately chases after them. Dreza fires at the monster, but just when she seems to be gaining the upper hand, a tree on the road knocks her out cold. Levi stumbles upon a hidden rocket, the true secret they were meant to protect. Meanwhile, Dreza regains consciousness only to realize she's been captured by a monster and taken to a silo. Furious, she starts yelling at a monster in Lithuanian and kicks one of them square in the chest. A brutal fight breaks out, and just when the zombie is about to kill her, Levi arrives in dramatic fashion, taking out the creature and saving her. Levi's timing is impeccable. Someone give this man a medal for dramatic entrances. Levi approaches the monster soldier's body and notices a name: B. Shaw. This man was the first to protect the Western Tower and was the one who originally named these creatures the Hollow Men. Realizing they're in an old chemical missile facility, Levi warns Dreza that the earthquake damaged the missiles and they've started leaking. They move further inside, surrounded by sleeping monsters, but Dreza accidentally wakes one up. Pure chaos erupts. Dreza fires into the monsters, igniting a massive blaze. Racing ahead, they find a garage filled with old Jeeps. Without hesitation, they hop into one and speed off, heading toward the eastern wall. Thinking fast, Levi ties the car to the line so they can use it as a pulley system to escape. Improvised zipline with a Jeep. That's some MacGyver-level problem solving right there. The monsters aren't giving up. The couple is soon surrounded, fighting off zombies from all sides. Seeing no other option, Levi pierces a propane canister from the car, douses the creatures in fuel, and sets them ablaze. A whole line of zombies erupts into flames, but in the process, their Jeep also takes heavy damage. With no choice left, they scramble onto the rocks and cut the rope, watching as the car tumbles down the gorge, taking a few unlucky zombies with it. Later, the two are relaxing in the Eastern Tower. Levi mentions that he has a radio check tomorrow, so he has to get back to the tower. He explains that he got this job because he has no family, no one to miss him if he were to disappear. Dreza suggests they run away to France once this is all over, claiming she knows a secret place there. Levi wants to go with her, but he also has unfinished business. He wants to destroy the Gorge. They agree to meet in a week. If they can survive 5 days without symptoms, it means they aren't infected by the virus from the Gorge. Romantic getaway? More like a zombie survival checklist. At least France is still on the table. In the morning, Levi takes a new zipline back to his tower and checks in on the radio. Suddenly, Bartholomew comes through, asking if he was the one who activated something in the Gorge. Levi denies it, but she warns him that he needs to neutralize another soldier in the eastern sector. Later, Levi looks at Dreza from a distance as she writes "I love you" for him to see. Just then, a helicopter appears in the sky and the two take off running. Meanwhile, Bartholomew finds Levi's notebook and orders the drones to be deployed. One of the drones locks onto Levi and begins chasing him. Drones now? Levi's life just keeps getting better and better. France is sounding like a 5-star vacation at this point. Levi manages to shoot down one drone while Dreza fights off another. The two hide in the hills, watching soldiers below in the Western Tower. Meanwhile, Bartholomew discovers a hidden wall in Levi's tower covered with soldier quotes. Acting quickly, Levi and Dreza take their shots at the cloakers, triggering a catastrophic failure in the cloaking system above the gorge. The sirens start wailing as the entire gorge, along with everything within a 4-kilometer radius, including soldiers and Bartholomew's helicopter, goes up in a massive explosion. The shockwave blasts Levi into the water. Meanwhile, Dreza waits for Levi in the cave. 5 days pass. In the next scene, Dreza is in France, near the sea, standing alone where they had planned to go together. She reads a poem Levi gave her earlier, then turns and walks away. It's now April. Dreza is working as a waitress in a French restaurant, seemingly moving on with her life. Suddenly, she spots Levi sitting at a table. Overjoyed, she rushes over and playfully tells him he's late. Levi, smiling, apologizes, saying he got injured in his old job. Dreza jokingly offers him a job in the kitchen. They kiss, and the film ends. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.